Well, to discuss the week that was in the White House, we're joined by former White House staffer for both Republican and Democrat presidents, Professor Ed Blakely. Ed, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Where do you look? Which fire?
The leaks are part of government. They don't stop. And it's an interesting facade, but the leaks will continue because the leaks come from people who know one another. So how are you going to stop that? The reporters have known these people for years. It's going to continue.
All right, let's first have a look at the United States' relationship with Russia under President Trump. Now, he was looking to foster a closer relationship. He obviously met with Vladimir Putin. But sanctions have now been essentially imposed on Russia by the US Congress, much to the annoyance of President Trump.
These sanctions are really almost the finish of the business of the Senate. The Senate was looking at whether the Russians tampered in the election. They found they did, and the sanctions are a direct result of that. So they will not be chasing down too much in the way of, on the criminal side. They're leaving that to the House. If you notice, they're interviewing Junior and other people, but they are not pressing them. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One, they want the House to go down that trail. But the other reason is their business is almost really wrapped up. They found the Russians guilty, and they're penalizing them.
And what might we expect to come of this? Because, of course, Trump was reluctant to have those sanctions and to have to sign them as well, but feeling the pressure there clearly. What do we expect to come? Because there's been quite a strong response as well from Russia, hasn't there?
Yes, there has. But the interesting thing people aren't talking about is the United States removed its covert people from the Syrian area where they were helping the rebels in the fight in the suburbs. When the United States removed their covert people, then the rebels thought the United States is not on their side. The Russians quickly moved in and are stabilizing that regime. So maybe we're giving away Syria in exchange for the sanctions here. Trump had to do something quickly to show he was still on their side. He has real problems with the Russians. They can throw him under the bus, and they may well.
And when you say that, that's in terms of what transpired in the lead up to the election and during the election?
No. It's what transpired before the election, long before the election. If you think about it, the Trump empire never had any money trouble during the financial fiascos. They had money. Where did that money come from? The people in that room, 3 of them represented the news industry, other industries, entertainment, and so on. But 2 others represent the finance industry. So there's obvious connections between the finance industry in Russia and the Trump empire. And what happened during 2013 with the Miss Universe contest. There are obvious connections, and those connections may be leverage. And that's where we're going now. Was there leverage put on the Trumps about how they conducted their campaign, what the results might be? The Russians, I don't think, even knew he would win, but they knew he would be a person who could represent them post the election.
Well, what do you make then of the reports that a grand jury has been impanelled by the special counsel, Robert Mueller? Is that an indication that in terms of investigating where Russia has become entangled with the way their campaign was conducted or potentially entangled, is that an indication that this has now reached a new level and that there is potential for subpoenas to be ordered for further information to be revealed?
Yes, and this is why this grand jury is so important. The grand jury is going to be using the RICO Act. This is an act about international and national conspiracies to commit organized crime. They went after the Hells Angels with this, the Gambino with this. You don't have to commit the crime yourself, but you have to be knowledgeable that the crime's being committed in your name or from your auspices. Nobody in those families ever committed a crime, but they winked an eye, or they said good going, etc. That is why what went on in that airplane is important. Did the president dictate a cover-up? So you only have to be tangentially connected to be involved with a crime. So we may be going now after the president's pre-election criminality informed of an organized crime being connected with his financing of his empire. That's why that line's being drawn. Because if you cross that line, the Russians could throw him under the bus.
Ed, let's turn our attention to the White House. What's going on inside? That revolving door keeps spinning. Certainly has this week. Now, the latest attention is focused on General McMaster, the National Security Advisor. A lot of criticism coming his way. Why is that?
Well, there are two reasons for this. One of them is he's starting to remove the right-wing people that Trump installed in the national security apparatus. These people have no national security background, but they're there to use the national security apparatus to point fingers at people that they want fingers pointed at, not to necessarily uphold the U.S. national interest. McMaster's wants people who will hold the national interest. Let me give you an example. What if you wanted to put out a story about Israel, and you want it to be a national security issue, or about Syria, and you want it to be floating in the direction the president's talking? You can use that office for it. McMaster's has said, no way. We will tell the truth here. Moreover, he testified that the Russians were involved in this election. So he's a bit too honest. He's telling the truth. And the truth will not make anybody free in the Trump administration.
So what implications are there as well around questions of his position on Israel? I mean, is that potentially something that will, further hamper diplomatic relations internationally?
Well, the Israel thing is a smokescreen. The president wanted Israel to actually take some actions that will slow down the Palestinian thing, maybe come in accordance. That's failing. So this is just a smokescreen. Really what they're trying to do is get a White House that will go along with the president's agenda. The unfortunate thing is they've got Kelly now. And Kelly will do the same thing. He'll tell the truth. So the president may not be on Twitter for the next 17 days. My position might be in danger here.
Essentially, Kelly being there to instill some discipline.
When that discipline comes, several things will happen. One, there'll be a mass exodus of the previous people. They're on the way out the door. They're carrying all those secrets, all those leaks with them, so they'll continue. The other thing that'll happen is the White House press room may have some different people in it. People who will be able to stand up and say what they know. And the third thing that'll happen is the president will have to mind his P's and Q's with General Kelly around. Midnight madness on the Twitter is not what a general likes.
Watch this space.
I think this is a space that's going to be very interesting, because most of the space, when the president comes back, will be about whether the president is asked to come before a grand jury. Then we have a constitutional crisis.
Professor Ed Blakely, always good to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.